In 2002, Justice Lorenzo Relova retired from the Ateneo Law School after 45 years of continuous service as a professor of law. Over that period, he mentored young law students, many of whom are now notable practitioners of law and renowned members of government, business, and academe. As a professor, he was admired by his former students for the clarity of his mind and the depth of his understanding of the law. But he was revered for his dedication to his students, his humility and simplicity, his commitment to public service, and most of all, his impeccable integrity.
As a student at the time, I remember Justice Relova as a person who's very diligent and very focused in the manner that he taught remedial law. Justice Relova also was very thorough, exhaustive in the manner that he covered case law. And we got trained very rigidly on procedure under his term. He was also very fair when he began to teach. You really cannot sense any form of bias on his part. So he's a very upright person, even as a teacher.
Justice Relova easily was one of my favorite professors in law school. And I think he was the favorite professor of most of the students in law school have had him, mainly because we always knew that he considered part of his public service the teaching of the law. We knew that he loved the law. We knew that he loved, we could feel that he loved teaching the law. And we knew that he loved every one of his students. In public service, he believed and lived the truism that public service is a public trust, and that public officials should not only be honest, have integrity, but live simple lives. That was how he was. The other thing was the fact that although he was already in the Supreme Court, nothing has changed for him. His background when he was a public prosecutor, when he began his public service, was one of integrity, a push towards making people accountable, prosecuting them and making sure that they are held accountable. And yet when he dealt with people, with fellow faculty, with students, he was always a gentleman, always humble in his speech, and yet passionate in his ways. That was what made him extraordinary.
Justice Relova had a long and distinguished career as an educator, a jurist, and a lawyer. He completed his law degree just before the Second World War and started his public service career as the war-torn republic was beginning to rebuild itself. In 1945, he was appointed Public Prosecutor of Manila. As a fiscal, he became well known for successfully prosecuting the leaders of the Communist Party of the Philippines, or rebellion, and for convicting a mayor's bodyguard who was accused of murder. The latter he did despite attempts to suppress evidence and intimidate witnesses. He became a judge of the Court of First Instance and then the Court of Appeals. In 1979, he was appointed Court Administrator of the Supreme Court. In 1982, he was appointed Justice of the Supreme Court. His unsullied reputation was a big factor in that appointment, where then President Marcos needed to appoint new justices of unquestionable integrity after the court was rocked by a scandal that further injured what was already a damaged institution. It was not an easy time to be part of the highest court of the land, for that was a time of political repression, and even the Supreme Court was reached by the long, manipulative arm of the presidency. In 1984, Justice Relova would be instrumental in creating a space for the restoration of democracy in 1986. When Marcos declared the holding of a snap election and the legislature passed a special elections law, those who knew that Marcos would lose in the election questioned the constitutionality of the law. The Supreme Court was deadlocked on the issue until Justice Relova broke the impasse. This act of his would lead to the presidential election and the 1986 People Power Revolution that would throw the dictator out of office. Justice Relova's commitment to all the institutions he served was unqualified, and his adherence to his principles unwavering. In his long and distinguished career, he remained true to the principles of his profession, never compromising his probity, always holding truth and honor above everything. Today, he continues to live a life of simplicity, devoted to God, family, and others.
Certainly, he was a man of great integrity and a graduate of whom the Ateneo can certainly be proud of. He can be held up as an example to young lawyers for them to imitate in the practice of law and the practice of their profession.